resources, the first dimension. And second dimension, which I call as a cognitive resources. The second important dimension of material and non-material aspects of education is the cognitive resources. Cognitive resources have two dimensions, material and non-material. Because if I give one example, what is cognitive resource and what is physical resource? A wall in the school is a physical resource. A blackboard in the school is a physical resource. A map in the class is not simply a physical resource, it is a cognitive resource. A globe in the class is not a physical resource, it is also a cognitive resource. So many charts, many scientific apparatus, they are physical in nature, but they are cognitive in nature. There are two dimensions to it. So therefore, if map is present in the school, but it is not put to use in class, it remains as a physical resource. If map is used by social science teacher every day, that physical resource becomes a cognitive resource. And this putting to use is a process. And in order to understand this process, the quantitative research is not enough. You have to go for qualitative research. And therefore, to what extent a map is used, to know that you need different methods, because they are not absolutely quantifiable. They may be accessible, but they are not quantifiable. So therefore, the second dimension is the cognitive resources, which are physical in appearance but mental in process. How to conduct research into how many computers are there in schools is a physical. To what extent computers are used in the classroom is not physical, it is cognitive. How many dictionaries are there in primary school or in middle school is physical, but how far dictionaries are used by English teacher in the classroom is a cognitive, and it is captured by entering into the process. Again disturbance is coming. So therefore, and this dimension of reality is, let me put, to end this dimension of reality is both quantitative plus qualitative, and what methods you have to use here in order to do this. And third dimension, which I go into the other one, is this. Again not of this. The third dimension is policies and programs. Policies, programs, schemes. And suppose Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan.
ਦੋ ਤਿੰਨ ਕੀ ਬੱਚੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰ ਬਾਈ ਤੂੰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਡਮ ਇੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਪੇਪਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੜੇ ਫੀਸ ਚੜਵਾ ਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਪੇਪਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਟੈਸਟ ਚੜਵਾ ਦਾ ਮਰ ਕੋਲ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਤਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਵਾਉਣਾ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ
Jagada is going on.
ਐਮਐਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਮੋਟ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਫਾਈਨਲ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ ਸੋਮਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਜਾਣ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਓ 2 ਦਿਨਾਂ ਤੱਕ
Hello.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰੋ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ 100 ਸਿੱਧੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ ਇੱਕ 20 ਸੈਕਿੰਡ ਦੀ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਕਸ਼ਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫਾਈਲ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਦੀ ਵੀਰ ਚ ਆ ਬੀਕॉम ਚ
Hello.
Hello, sir.
I have a lot of noise. Somebody is constantly. Okay. Okay. Third dimension. Let me.
Hello, sir. Please, sir. Unmute it, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I am discussing about the third dimension of third aspect of educational research, maybe I want to conduct research into policies, programs, and schemes. This is a big area because I introduced a computer into midday meals in the schools or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan into the school. What is the impact of that? I want to know. And impact to certain extent is measurable and certain extent is interpreted. You have to interpret it. And when this comes, it comes quantitative, qualitative, and if I want to analyze the policy at theoretical level, then it becomes critical or interpretative. Therefore, it becomes theoretical research. So therefore, for these dimensions of reality, you have methods called, these are reflective, these are critical, and these are interpretive. You need different kind of methodologies to study this. And lastly, if I go into ideas, and this is absolutely theoretical research. So therefore, these are 4 or 5 dimensions of realities that we can go into. So therefore, what approaches we want to conduct? I go to my first point before I conclude this. I believe as a researcher, educational research is fundamentally a research on the process. And process research will be captured by qualitative approach rather than quantitative approach. Quantitative approach helps us in understanding the material dimension of educational research. But the process, I want to understand school culture, classroom culture. And in order to understand classroom culture, culture is not a measurable thing. However scales you develop, you need a different to understand the processes, classroom culture, teacher-taught relation. Teacher-taught relation cannot be understood by developing a scale. You may satisfy with developing a scale, 25 test items and answers and quantifying them, arriving at this. But to really understand what is the teacher-taught relation, what is classroom processes, and how children are learning actually in the classroom, there is a need to adopt qualitative approaches in the classroom. And adopting classroom approach highly difficult task. It is a challenging task to the teacher. And what is qualitative approach? Let me define in simple terms. Qualitative methodology is studying a phenomenon in their natural setting. This is the hallmark of qualitative research. I want to study a reality when reality in its natural setting. And in order to understand a educational reality in its natural setting, let me give one example, very interestingly, conducted by a great technologist. I forgot his name. He has written a book called he was representing one of the biggest technological companies. He conducted research along with his team in Bangalore, Rajasthan, and somewhere else in slum areas. And the research was, what is the impact of technology on learning? Because they wanted to introduce technology in the process. And when he conducted a research, this is called experimental research, and there were very positive results that technology has its impact on learning, very positive. But when actually technology entered into real classroom, he himself said the impact has drastically came down. So in an experimental setting, the technology is working well. But when it is goes to the natural classroom, the technology is becoming a negative force. So therefore, education is not an experimental area as a biologist do in the laboratory. Education is happening in natural classroom. So therefore, as a researcher, I have to visit that natural setting and participate myself in that natural setting and try to understand what is happening there. This approach we call it as a qualitative approach. And this approach is very important in education because educational reality cannot completely be measured. The process cannot be measured in accurate sense. And this qualitative research, let me read the methods that are very popular in qualitative research. Mostly, if I say one word before entering into that, most in some of the qualitative approach that are entering into education are mostly done by either in sociology or in anthropology. Now we have to decide whether education falls into a science, whether education comes under social science. Because education definitely comes into the humanities and social sciences. So therefore, the qualitative approaches, the dominant approach in qualitative research is ethnographic research. Maybe the next speaker may be focusing on this. Therefore, I don't dwell into what is ethnographic research. And there is a phenomenological research. This is very difficult research to conduct in education. And there are whatever may be the researches in qualitative research to capture the process. I wish to look into these three strategies or methods, whatever the name we give, is the participant observation. This is the fundamental strategy or method of qualitative research to understand the process, what is happening in the classroom. As a participant, I have to participate in the classroom for longer period of time. By participating in the classroom, I will come to know what is teacher taught relation, what is classroom culture, what is school culture, and how learning is happening. There are many aspects. And second one, which is dominantly used, is the focus group discussion. And if we do these two, particularly participant observation and focus group discussion in a ethnographic study, then it is possible to capture the process that is happening in the classrooms. And this really helps a school to change itself, to change the classroom processes in the light of the findings coming out of a qualitative research conducted in the classroom. And for this, you may conduct a case study, a deep level case study. And case study looks into all dimensions by the researcher. So therefore, qualitative research demands researcher to be present in every bit of research process. So therefore, if we do this, I think this will bring certain positive results to understand. But what is the possibility of conducting this in our classrooms? There are many limitations to conduct this qualitative research because qualitative researches are mostly elongated. It requires little more time a researcher has to spend in the field study. And if researcher is committed, then it can be done. And I'll give one example. With that, uh, I conclude my talk. In anthropology, in sociology, in tribal studies, there is a anthropologist called Hemant Das. In 1940s or 1930s, when he visited India, he stayed in a particular tribal area for more than 20 years to understand the tribal culture. We cannot expect academic researchers to stay years together, but at least days together. One has to stay in the school to understand that. If we do it, then I think we can understand education as a process, not simply a material thing. And if you appreciate education as a process, we switch over more and more to qualitative research and do not confine only to quantitative research. and both researches are necessary, but to understand the process, qualitative research are more in demand. So this is from my side, and I thank for patient hearing. I don't know. I thank everybody. I thank particularly organizers for having given this opportunity to interact with you. Thank you. If any questions or anything, we can. I stop.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now,
Thank you. Thank you.
sir, one small query, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
In what way that we can verify the theory as well as generate the theory in terms of educational research?
We need a session on it, theoretical research, how to build a theory
Yes,
and
sir.
how to verify it.
Yes, sir.
Originally, what the research that we normally do in education is not intended to develop theories, particularly in qualitative research. Because qualitative research do not even go into deeper generalizations, broad generalizations, right? And theory building is a different kind of research. And these kinds of research need different level of research. Theory like to go into the practice of verification. And let me say here, these theory building and verification, these are mostly coming from science-based research, because science and that is verified in the real field. But in education, very interestingly, as I said at the beginning, it is not a static reality. It is ever evolving, a dynamic reality. So in ever evolving dynamic reality, the theory that is developed yesteryear may not necessarily be verified as it is in current and in future context. So therefore, verification or verifiability in educational theory has a different ball game, unlike in science.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, our second speaker is waiting. Now, I would like to request Professor Sahu, sir, please have a little bio note of Professor Panigrahi, sir, from MS University, Baroda. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
We can hear you now, sir.
It is audible.
Mute.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. So very good morning, everybody. So it is my proud privilege and honor to introduce Professor Dr. Sudarshan Chakra Pani. MS University of Baroda, where he is working now also. So he has been a professor, and he is a professor in the Center for Advanced Study in Education, shortly called as CASE, MS University Baroda. He has been ex-head and dean also faculty of education and psychology there. He has been coordinator of UGC SAP project in that department itself. He has specialized and currently engaged in teaching, training, and research in sociology of education, particularly rural and tribal education, qualitative research, constructivism and metacognition, teacher education, and like fields. So I invite So he has published n number of books, hundreds of research articles and papers in national as well as international journals. He guided more than 10 PhD scholars, dozens of MPhil and MA dissertations. He has been members of various professional and national and international bodies, and particularly organizations. He has been a member of panel of experts in various academic bodies of various organizations like NCT, NCRT, UGC, IGNOU, and various universities also. He has been in the editorial board of various journals. He is a member also Executive Council, Academic Council, Research Board, etc. of MS University Baroda and many other universities. He has completed dozens of research projects and he has presented hundreds of papers and also chaired in various national and international conferences, seminars, and workshops. He has organized various workshops and training programs, refresher course programs, etc. Also in that Center of Advanced Studies in Education, where even if I was one of the participants in long back in 2000. So likewise, he had also delivered more than hundreds of lectures as a guest speaker, like today's in this program. So I invite Professor Dr. Sudarshan Chakra Panigrahi, who is a very close to us and is a very renowned figure in our educational field, particularly, and being in Center of Advanced Studies in Education, which is the unique institute of education in our India. So I invite Professor Panigrahi for this session. Hearty welcome, Panigrahi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now
Okay.
it's over to Professor Panigrahi, sir. Hello.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, how do I connect this PPT if I have to show that? Can you guide me?
I'll guide.
We will connect, sir.
No, sir, can you see a
My
green button?
PPT is in desktop.
Okay, sir. I'll guide you through it, sir.
Okay.
So there is one green button just below your own image, which says share screen.
Okay.
You have to go there, sir.
I'll press that.
Right, sir.
Okay, I have pressed it.
So it will ask you to share your screen.
No, host disabled participant screen sharing it is showing. If I press share screen, shall I do it?
Yes, sir. You have to do the share screen.
I have done that. It is showing that host disabled participant screen sharing.
So I'll make you host again, sir. Can you please send me your email ID?
My
Just a minute. Can you share now, sir? We have made you co-host.
It is still showing host disabled participant screen sharing. So from your side, actually, you have to make it. From my side,
Yes, sir. We have made you co-host. I don't know why you are not able to share. I will, sir. Can you leave the room and join again?
eh,
Is it possible, sir?
I can once again rejoin. You mean to say? Okay, I will leave. I will leave then.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have rejoined.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, even to the right.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Ah, I have rejoined. Now,
Yes, sir.
shall I do the screen sharing?
Yes, sir. You can speak, sir, so that she will do.
Okay, you then you
She will
you
do.
you can show it.
Okay, sir.
But
Yes,
my visual is coming only in one corner actually. Anyway, forget it. If you are able to listen to me, then I will start.
yes, sir. You can start, sir. You can start.
What about the PPT?
It will come, sir. You can start, sir. You can start.
Okay, then let me formally begin the talk. There is a lot of disturbance actually coming.
Meet or Corona.
Okay.
ये तो सर थोड़ा सा।
Shall I begin?
Okay, sir. You can.
Okay. Good afternoon to one and all present here in this webinar. of Rajiv Gandhi University Institute of Distance Education. At the outset, I thank all the organizers to have invited me for this talk. I'm thankful to Professor Saket Kushwaha, the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar Tomo Riba, Meera Riba, then Coordinator Shiv Shankar, the Head Education Professor Kesang Didi, then Professor R. Dawa, the Dean of the Faculty of Education, then Director Distance Education Asan Reddy, and all the organizers who are present here. Please pardon me if I have pronounced the name a little differently. That's because of different culture. This is in fact one of the main points that will be reflected while I'll be speaking about qualitative research. I was listening to my previous speaker, and some of the very subtle elements of qualitative research have been touched upon by him, and therefore I thank Mr. Professor Ramesh Babu to have at least given some glimpses so that the reader is aware that there is something called qualitative research, and there is a different way of looking at phenomena. See, at any given point of time in human history, you will come across two differing views about social phenomena. For instance, if you take poverty, poverty is defined differently, understood differently by different people at different places. And therefore, you cannot have a singular meaning. Unlike natural sciences, wherein there is a greater possibility of coming out with one singular meaning, but that also is always not clear. And in fact, we take for granted that the singularity is the hallmark in natural sciences. But when it comes to social science, there is always a different, differing view. Now, this leads us to a question. Is the knowledge that we have, whether it is for social science or for natural science, is fragmented, or there is a composite whole? Now, this I will leave it to you. You can be able to decipher at the end of my talk. I'm not going to give you a straightforward reply to this question. Now, in order to proceed in the same direction, I introduced two concepts: knowledge and information. In scientific realm, knowledge is belief, anything that is believed to be true and supported by fact. And in scientific way, any knowledge which can be rationally justifiable and empirically testable. Now, I introduce another concept, information. Now, information is hard, tangible facts. But when you put information in different contexts, the value and the meaning changes, which may not be a case, especially when it comes to natural science. But if I give an example in the field of social science, for instance, you are standing in front, you are approaching a crossroad with some signal lights, and you see yellow light beamed, then you tend to think that there is a traffic and it is going to, I need to go and stop there because it will be followed by a red light. I stop that. And when there is a green light, I proceed. Now, please remember this yellow light. Now, when you proceed further in a lane or by lane, suppose there is a hospital or there is a school, you will come across a yellow light blinking. At once, you will think that probably there is some sensitive zone lying ahead, and therefore I need to be cautious. Now, you just compare both the traffic. In one, you saw the yellow light and a thought came that you are going to face red light and therefore you have to stop. In another case, there is a yellow light and you are becoming cautious because there is a sensitive zone lying ahead and you cautiously drive. Now, in both the cases, you come across yellow light. Yellow light is a fact, but when it is put in different context, the meaning actually, and therefore, to summarily say that all knowledge can be information, but all information cannot be knowledge. Now, this brings us to a debate about the sources of knowledge. In education, we have a belief that there is one methodology that is qualitative. It is not one methodology. There are many qualitative methodologies. And in quantitative, there is a single methodology. And therefore, should we be interested in finding out something, adopt either of these two, any one approach, and then you will be able to investigate. But if you go further, in sutra literature, in Sanskrit and philosophy, you come across 6 different ways of generating knowledge. One is anumana, it is logical inference. 2 is agamana, that is knowledge gained through verbal testing. 3, pratyaksha, perception by senses. 4, upamana, describing the phenomenon. 5, arthapati, knowledge gained through postulation. And this postulation can be drishtanta, means through demonstration, and srutartha, something that you hear it. And last one, 6th one is anupalabdhi, gaining immediate knowledge. If you have studied or if you are aware about phenomenology, one of the basic assumptions of phenomenology is that there are some essential structure in our consciousness through which, by a reflection, we gain knowledge. This is one of the basic assumptions Edmund Husserl has proposed in phenomenological research. So when you look at these sutra literature, these are the various ways. But remember, whichever means that you are adopting to know about or to come out with the knowledge, knowledge is characterized having a basic unity. Now, in ancient time, a person was considered to be knowledge when actually he was having, information from all these sources. Now, in Sanskrit, you also come across a term called Brahma Sutra. And in that it is mentioned Gati Samanyat. That is, there is unity in knowledge. Now, it can be argued that qualitative research gets its inspiration from these different sources which I just described. Now, this different means of acquiring knowledge, when it comes to the field of education, there are several conflicting ideas and dilemma actually that comes in. And that is, one of the conflicting ideas is the nature of knowledge and knowing in social science is radically different than that of social science. And if there are radical differences, are we recognizing the ontological, the epistemological, the assumptions related to human nature, and assumptions related to the methodology? Are we recognizing the basic assumptions of all these? See, nobody is going to argue that studying plants and rocks are entirely different than studying schools, colleges, students. Does it lead us to say, when they are different, are they really so different? There can be two arguments. Because in the field of education, we employ both these. The manner in which plants, animals, rocks, etc., they are studied, and the manner in which school students, etc., they are being studied. So actually two arguments stems from it. One, a methodology that has primarily originated from the discipline of natural science can be prototype adopted in the field of social science. When I'm using social science education included, now those who subscribe to this view, they are called traditionalists. Now those who believe that studying plants and animals are entirely different than studying students and schools and human behavior, and therefore a methodology that primarily originates from the discipline of natural science cannot be prototype adopted in the field of social science. These thinkers are called radicalist. Now, education is a field which has absorbed both the traditional and the radical view. Now, both these arguments, or those who hold this argument, let us be clear that we are not trying to say one is wrong or the other one is right, or the vice versa. Why do people think and believe it to be like that, we need to examine the underlying assumptions pertaining to the radicalist view as well as the traditionalist view. Now, there are 4 set of assumptions on which both these group of scholars, they have their own assumptions and argue. And this is with regard to the social reality that we are trying to comprehend through our research process. So at the top on the left side, keep subjective assumptions, and on the top right, keep objective assumptions. And let us now see what are those assumptions. The first level of assumption pertains to ontology. Now, ontology is a branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of reality. Now, is reality independent, given out there, others to see, perceive, and comprehend it? Or is reality dependent on the knower? Knower is the subject. And therefore, there is a relationship between the knower and the knowing. Now, if you subscribe that reality is independent of my cognition, it is given out there, you are said to be a nominalist. So you go in the right side, that is objective assumption. If you believe that reality is dependent upon the knower and there is a relationship between the knower and the known, you are subscribing to the idea. Sorry. The first one is actually realism, that is objective. And if you subscribe to the other, you are a nominalist. I'm sorry, please change this. Once again, let me repeat. If you believe reality is hard, reality is given out there, reality is independent of my cognition, then you are said to be an objectivist and you fall in the realm of realism. If you believe reality is dependent upon the knower, there is a relationship between the knower and the known, then you are said to be a nominalist. Now, this nominalist and realist debate is a debate in philosophy which is even now going. We are not here to decide whether really we believe in realism or we believe in nominalism. That is left to us. It's a question of belief, my dear friends. It's a question of belief. Now, you have to subscribe to any one belief. You cannot put your leg on, feet on both the boats. I always suggest you keep your both the feet in one boat, either this one or the other. Once you have aligned yourself to the ontological assumptions, then the next level of assumption is for epistemology. Epistemology is again a branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of knowledge. Now, is the nature of knowledge hard, tangible, and therefore it can be given to different people? Or is the nature of knowledge soft, personal, and experiential? See, when we read a book, we believe that what is there in the book is knowledge. Now, if that is so, when asked, everybody should reproduce everything that they read. But that is not the case. Different individuals present the idea very differently. And therefore, you can have multiple meanings, multiple ways. So if you believe that what is written as knowledge, stored as knowledge, knowledge something tangible, you take the position of a positivist. If you believe knowledge is personal, knowledge is experiential, you are an anti-positivist. So you go to the subjective area and the former goes to the objective assumptions. Once you align yourself to the ontological assumptions and the epistemological assumptions, the third level of assumption is pertaining to human nature. Now, is human nature deterministic, mechanistic, or voluntary? Now, I give an example of a deterministic nature. See, I have a routine, or anybody has a routine to get up at some time in the early morning, then after the initial work, take breakfast at a particular time, then lunch at a particular time, in between a cup of tea, etc. Imagine a day you got up late and consequently you are too late for many things, so you skip the breakfast. You are into a conference wherein the speaker goes on speaking and therefore there is no time for tea. And the speaker continues beyond lunchtime. It is obvious that you will feel hungry. If you say no, then you are cheating yourself. It's a common sense knowledge. You feel hungry. This is deterministic. See, if this idea is not being actually held by Skinner, probably B.F. Skinner would not have come out with that big theory which created revolution in education, operant conditioning. Though he studied human behavior. In fact, towards the later part of his life, he was studying even on a project how to control human behavior. So, the moment, this is a deterministic way about thinking about human nature. Now, similarly, imagine a day you have decided to keep fast. And therefore, until the fasting time is over, you don't feel hungry. And in fact, in a lighter vein, it is said, if you are a Hindu and if you have observed fast and then if you feel hungry, then paap lagega. So eh? you tend to think that you don't feel hunger. Now, I am not here to justify. My point here is your belief. So you say human nature is voluntary. If you say human nature is voluntary, then you subscribe to the idea of the subjectivity. And when you say human nature is deterministic, you are in the realm of objective. So once you align to ontology, epistemology, human nature on the subjective dimension and objective dimension, last is the methodology. If you believe reality is independent, if you believe knowledge is hard and tangible, if you believe human nature is deterministic, then you will be adopting a means which will try to collect quantified information or information which can be psychometrically converted into quantified form, and then you will be able to say something. Then you are doing a nomothetic research. In other words, you are trying to discover the general laws and principles that govern the entire society. If you believe reality is dependent upon the knower, knowledge is personal and experiential, human nature is voluntary, accordingly, you would be looking for information which are in soft form, like in-depth interviewing, participant observation, informal discussion, focused group discussion, and so on and so forth. And remember, all these informations are in soft form, and the moment you convert it into a psychometrically measurable thing, then the meaning gets lost. I can provide any number of instances how meaning can get lost. And therefore, those who subscribe that this has to be captured as it is, which is done in qualitative research, you are said to be doing an ideographic research. In ideographic research, a researcher tries to understand the field from the point of view of the subject. Here in nomothetic, you employ certain theoretical ideas and then you interpret the information. You convert the, even if soft information you get, into a psychometrically measurable form. So you get a quantified number things. Herein you get qualified things. But one caution which is necessary, because the moment I have used the word number, see, number is not the prerogative of only quantitative. In qualitative research also you can use number, but that is used differently. Here primarily you are quantifying the information or converting the information into a measurable form, and then you interpret the information. So not, any description for that matter is not qualitative research, or any description having number is not quantitative research. See, how many there were 900 schools, and out of which 300 schools had computer facilities. You cannot say that this can be obtained only in quantitative research. Can you not get these information in qualitative research? See, so any number is not quantitative or any description is not qualitative. You need to adhere to the underlying assumptions, how these things have been taken from the field. So if you align to these objectives, you are in the quantitative, and if you align to these subjectives, you are in the realm of qualitative. Now I come to the qualitative, because quantitative, my previous speaker has also focused, and some other people are likely to speak on this. Qualitative research actually originated from the in the discipline of sociology and anthropology. Now, there is no one qualitative research. There are many different schools like phenomenology, ethnometeorology, symbolic interactionism, grounded theory, and so on and so forth. It's qualitative research. They study things in their natural setting. It is actually interdisciplinary in nature, and it crisscross different disciplines of social science. If you don't hold an interdisciplinary idea, doing qualitative research would be a very difficult task. You need to hold an interdisciplinary idea, and your thinking about the social reality has to be entirely different than that of a quantitative person. Now, I shall briefly discuss about the different steps of doing qualitative research. But before that, when I have used the word phenomenology, ethnometeorology, grounded theory, one or two sentences pertaining to each of these let me tell. Because each one presents a methodological genre. Whether you are talking of ethnography, whether you are talking of grounded theory, or whether you are talking of phenomenology. All these types of qualitative research, they study things in natural setting, and they try to look at the reality from the point of view of the subject. See, in quantitative research, if you have to say that when two individuals, they actually are together and they are interacting, it is a kind of a stimulus and response thing that is going on between A and B. A says something that goes as a stimulus, and B responds to it. Now, when it comes to qualitative research, and particularly phenomenology, it is not just the stimulus response. There are different processes. One, when a stimulus comes, first, the stimulus is being defined. then it is understood, then it is interpreted, and then the outcome. That is why, if you recall the famous example which Mahatma Gandhi gave about if you slap another person, or if somebody slaps you, you don't slap him. Now, if you see that context, X slaps Y. Y actually defines it and then interprets and may act by giving a slap, may keep quiet. So the action, that is the response, as it takes place in a quantitative setting, if X is stimulus, Y response has to come, which is not the case in phenomenology. So we not only define, we interpret and then act accordingly. So when you are looking at social reality, you need to take the position of the subject. Like the wearer only knows where the shoe pinches. So if someone describes you, you will not be able to know. You need to wear the shoe, then only you will be able to realize. So you need to develop a kind of an empathic feeling. So empathy is hallmark in qualitative, and especially when you are doing a phenomenological research. If you are doing an ethnographic research primarily is concerned with how on a daily basis individual constructs and define reality. They are interested in the microscopic aspect of individual human behavior. And they don't explain why an individual is behaving in a way he is behaving. Ethnographers, they primarily describe. They don't impose meaning on the phenomena. Actually, there is a term called unobtrusive, means you present a faithful account as perceived by the subject, not as perceived by you. See, for instance, I give an example. A researcher goes to a field work and stays in a village. It's a monsoon time, or the beginning of the monsoon. He observes that from a house, about 3-4 people, both male, female included, they come out of the house, look at the sun, raise their hand and bow down. Now, as an onlooker or an observer, you tend to describe this situation as, and this actually activity the researcher observes for a prolonged number of days. This is, if this account is been written, then here sun is considered as God and when we consider God or when we go to near them, we bow down to pay our respect. Now, this is absolutely a rubbish way of describing a situation. We generally say in education, I have also observed. Here also the researcher has observed. But if you talk to the participants, then you will realize that they perform certain activity for the benefit of the whole village. They don't reveal beyond that. Then how do you know about it, about this situation? Then when you interact with some of the people in the village, then you will realize that it is the tradition of the village and it is the responsibility of that particular family to invoke their ancestors so that they will be pleased by their prayer and there will be good rain. And when there will be good rain, there will be a good harvesting and the whole village will be happy. And it is primarily the responsibility of this but one family only, not the entire villagers. This is the faithful account or description of a situation. So in what context it is appearing and how it has evolved. In fact, in ethnography, there is a terminology called thick description, a faithful account that you are producing. Now, there is an argument. Since the researcher is socialized in a different social milieu or cultural setup, holds ideas and prejudices and philosophies that are likely to influence the description. As I told in the first instance, how the researcher described. The researcher described completely from his perspective. Definitely, he must be belonging to a Hindu family. And in the Hindu family, it is the tradition that when you look at sun, you bow down, sun is considered God and so on and so forth. So coming to the other description that I explained just now, you are expected to not to influence the description. So there is a technique used in ethnography called bracketing. Bracketing means withholding judgment. You withhold your judgment. You bracket your own biases, assumptions, etc. And then you give a faithful account. Now, this happens in ethnography. And in grounded theory, it is again slightly done differently. In grounded theory, the conceptual ideas emerge from the subject, from the field. In fact, two famous persons, Glasser and Strauss, they were working on a project about the terminally ill patients. And each of these terminally ill patients had different knowledge about their health and well-being. And from this, actually, they came out with the book or the publication, The Grounded Theory Research. Now, in grounded theory, the researcher begins with actually a purposive sampling and starts collecting information, analyzes, then codifies, and then generate categories. Now, looking into the categories, those categories which are similar to each other, such type of sample actually he retains, and rest of the things are discarded. And on that, the researcher further carries out the work. That those categories which are much more similar to each other in their meanings and the sample that are included, they are known as theoretical sampling. In the sense, from the sample, the theoretical ideas or constructs will emerge, or concepts will emerge. Now, somebody actually asked a question in the previous session, whether it is possible to generate a theory and then test it. Remember, in qualitative research, and especially in grounded theory, it is not possible, and it is not the primary objective. The primary objective is to come out with an understanding of the situation, so that when somebody else with that understanding goes to the field and he undergoes the process of the grounded theory, he or she may also be able to come out with a theoretical idea. So this theory is not per se a scientific theory, which is normally we use in quantitative researches. With a theoretical idea, we approach and we collect information, and then we try and interpret those information based on our theoretical understanding. Friends, remember, in qualitative research, and especially in grounded theory, we are not trying to generate that kind of a theory. We are trying to generate a kind of an understanding, a theoretical idea. They are called actually conceptual theoretical ideas, which can be taken as base to understand certain situation, and one has to undergo the process of doing grounded theory in order to arrive at a theoretical idea. So there are actually many other such qualitative researches, because there is if I continue, it will again be a long talk. Let me come back, means something more practical, which a student of education can, or student of social science can do qualitative research. And therefore, certain steps I'm going to explain in brief. Now, first is the conceptual oblique theoretical framework. In this, of course, I shall be trying to present it vis-a-vis quantitative, so that things you will be able to comprehend it better. In a quantitative research, typically we begin with a theoretical idea and we approach the field. But in qualitative also, you can approach with a theoretical idea, but quite often you start with a conceptual idea. And therefore, there is a difference. When concepts are involved, you identify, you call it a conceptual framework. When theoretical ideas are involved, you call it a theoretical framework. There can be both conceptual and theoretical framework in order to comprehend. One second. Sorry. A research in qualitative area can have both theoretical and conceptual framework. The only difference is that in a quantitative research, you don't change it. You don't modify it. Because this will guide the whole rest of the steps and the processes. Whereas in qualitative, this is always tentative. Because many a times it has been observed that what we study in the literature and what is present in the setting, that is in the field, are entirely sometimes different. I give you a famous example which I have personally experienced, and I share it with every other individual. I read in the literature in the state where I belong, Odisha, and Kalahandi is the district. There is a block, and in that block, there were 13 Gram Panchayats. And in 2 Gram Panchayats, there was 100% dropout after 3rd standard. And it was reported. So I was really curious to know, out of 13 Gram Panchayats, only 2 Gram Panchayats has 100%, 2 Gram Panchayats have 100% dropout and rest doesn't have. So I became very curious to know what is the case, and let me do an investigation. And when I reached the field, to my surprise, that in both the Gram Panchayats, there was no schooling beyond 3rd standard. Where will they go? Obviously, it will be shown as all the students have dropped out. And therefore, I had to entirely change my idea of research. So, in qualitative research, we may start with some kind of a tentative theoretical or conceptual framework. See, this theoretical or conceptual framework, is, it's nothing but an interrelated concepts put together in such a manner that it makes you, to comprehend or to understand a phenomena that you are trying to investigate. So when you enter into the field, you may have to change this idea. But remember, in quantitative research, there is no scope. Then research questions. For instance, you have gone to the field and you are studying about a setup. Now, a question can be, how do the cultural practices shape the life of the people? Now, with this broad question, you go to the field. Now, see this question, if you are posing in northeastern states and especially in tribal communities, and state like Madhya Pradesh, Odisha or Gujarat, your thinking has to be different. The tribal culture, the folklore, the social setup in different these states are entirely different. And therefore, even though you have a central question, how do cultural practices shape the life of a people? In one place, you may find that they encourage children for education. In another case, they don't. And therefore, even though cultural influences are there, they are different in different contexts. So researcher always enters the field with a broad question in the mind. Then these broad questions are divided into sub-questions depending upon the situation in the field. Now, answers to these questions, like when you obtain information from the field, you then decide to choose a particular research design. Whether you are going for a case study design, whether you are going for an ethnographic design, or whether you are interested to go for a grounded theory design. Now, design will emerge when you enter the field. In quantitative research, this is not the case. You have to decide a design beforehand, and then you enter, you collect your information. Now, when you choose a particular design, it can be phenomenological, it can be interactionist, it can be ethnographic, it can be grounded theory, and so on and so forth. So, your research question and subsequent collection of information from the field and analysis will actually tell you what kind of a design you will adopt. So, in qualitative research, the design evolves as the study progresses. And not only evolves, it is not final, it also can undergo change depending upon how the field work is being carried out. Now, once the design choice is finalized, then you think about sampling strategy. See, in qualitative research, we adopt interactive sampling, sometimes called theoretical sampling, sometimes both theoretical as well as this interactive, they are purposive. Broadly, you can say in terms of quantitative and qualitative research, the sampling technique that is adopted, it is known as statistical sampling. Whereas in qualitative research, it is theoretical sampling, interactive sampling. Now again, you have flexibility of bringing change in the sample structure depending upon the questions that will emerge in the field. In quantitative research, you do not have any scope for bringing any change. In other words, right from the beginning to the end, these are all rigid steps. In qualitative research, they are tentative. Tentative does not mean arbitrary. They are likely to be changed. That much of freedom, that much of liberty is with the researcher, which a quantitative researcher doesn't get. Then data gathering. Primarily participant observation. See, there are 4 types of this observation. In quantitative, we generally say, I am also doing participant observation. Number 1, you are a complete means observer or a participant. In this sense, observer means you are outside and you are observing a particular group. Or the extreme is participant observer, means you are completely immersed in the field with the subject. Between these 2 extremes, one a complete participant, one a complete observer, there are 2 variants. One, participant as an observer, and 2, observer as participant. Now, participant as an observer, you make the subject aware that what are you doing, why are you participating. So your participation is more.
Hello, sir. Please unmute it, sir.
Okay. Now the other one is the observer as should I speak the first one again?
Yes, sir, carry on, sir.
No. Should I speak the participant as observer? There was some disturbance. See, an individual is primarily participating in different activities of the social setting, but he is also making aware to the subject that he is also observing. Now, the opposite, the observer as a participant. So, basically, you are in the first category type, you are observing, but occasionally to certain things, you may like to participate. So, 4 types: complete observer, external observer, complete participant, in between participant as observer and observer as participant. Now, it is always suggested that if you are doing a pure anthropological studies on some people, which takes a prolonged period of time, and it is normally, see, a lot of disturbance is taking place. Normally, you
Sir, please once again unmute, sir.
there are a lot of disturbances coming.
Yes, sir, due to that.
Okay. See, Professor Babu mentioned about Christopher Hemmendorf, an Austrian anthropologist. I can tell you, even Verrier Elwin, another anthropologist, they came here, settled, married to the people. Even then, after 40 years or more than that, they spent their life. They were not accepted by the people. They were always seen as an outsider coming. So this is, however, the kind of immersion that they had in the field is entirely different. So to become a participant in an alien atmosphere is not an easy task. You may go, you will always be, maybe in a little longer, means later, they may develop trust in you, but initially you are seen with a surveillance. So in education, we really do not do this participant observation. And therefore to say that, yes, I am also, you can do ethnographic research without using, means you using the in between. I told participant as observer and observer as participant, because in both the cases, the subject is completely aware that, what you are doing. In the first case, in maximum, as far as possible, you participate in almost all activities, and in the other case, you selectively participate. But to say that I am doing participant observation, I don't think we can really in the field of education, in this short span of time, doing doctoral work or project work in 3-4 years time, we can be, yes, we can be participant as observer or observer as participant, but or can be a complete observer, but not a complete participant. Then in-depth interviewing, I need to actually speak. These are the different means through which we collect data, but this focused group discussion, there is a misconstrued notion about this focused group discussion. Just because a small group people, they are invited and then you discuss. In fact, this is not focus group discussion. Focus group discussion requires first collection of information, then analysis of information, and generating 1 or 2 questions from that, which the participants, those with whom you have conducted interview, they will not be, or they are not in a position to give you or explain you or give a comprehensive meaning or a meaningful thing about it. And therefore, on those 1 or 2 points, you invite only selective people and you discuss only that. In general, in education, very often I come across, I have also used focused group discussion. Focused group discussion in the sense, it is nothing but a small group discussion. Call a end group of people and then you start discussing some topics. So you need to be this in-depth interviewing. Many people say, I also do in-depth interviewing. See, my dear, I have experienced in-depth interviewing sometimes goes days together. Does it mean that the subject will sit in front of you and then you'll start interviewing with him? It is not like this. It is done in a very informal manner. You got time today and he is free. You talk something little. Then maybe sometime later in the evening or maybe next day or maybe some other time, your interview still continue. Your interview will still continue. In-depth interviewing is not simply calling an individual and asking him to sit in front of you and then ask 100 questions and then you go deeper into it. This is not in-depth interviewing. Exploring into a phenomenon. This in-depth interviewing can be stretched to a large extent. See, most often we actually borrow these terminologies from different methodological genre. And then we indiscriminately employ in the field of education. But we should give a caution how we have done it. As these terms, they are not basically originated from the discipline of education. Basically, they are from sociology, anthropology, and some other fields. Education being an allied discipline, we adopt these techniques. And therefore, we should accept our limitations. I'm not saying they cannot be, but the manner in which, in the original disciplines as they are done, to some extent we can approximate and therefore we can depend on these kinds of things. Then I go to data management. Now, with regard to this, as against in quantitative, you have all tools, standardized, or even sometimes researcher makes the tool and then validates, etc., etc. I don't need to speak. Data management. See, as soon as a qualitative researcher enters the field, data collection begins and data analysis also begins. Data analysis is a fixed stage in a quantitative research. Once the data is collected from the field, you come and then you start your analysis. Whereas data collection and data analysis is a concurrent activity when you are doing qualitative research. And these concurrent activities are done differently if you are doing a grounded theory research, if you are doing ethnographic research, if you are doing a phenomenological research, and so on and so on. But very preliminary and essentially cutting across all these methodologies, one thing a researcher does, and that is first, deciding data analysis strategies. Now, generally, there are three different strategies that are available to a researcher. One, ongoing analysis versus analysis at end. Structured or open-ended analysis, and analysis related to qualitative genre. Now, ongoing analysis and analysis at end means you collect data on a daily basis, you analyze, and then you proceed. Once the field work is completed, then the next analysis begins. You can do this analysis in a completely structured manner, pre-decided things, or open-ended. Now, it is left to you what kind of a data that you are going to obtain. Suppose you have gone to examine the status of midday meal, distribution of free textbook and uniform. You can go for a structured analysis as well as open-ended analysis. So it is not this or that. To something you like to structureize, so accordingly you classify your information. Some things you keep it open, and therefore you can go for open-ended analysis. See, when you are going for a structured one, actually it is been used with the help of a typology. Typology is a classification system. It can be indigenous typology. It can be analyst constructed typology. Indigenous typology means you read the data, whatever you have collected, and whatever meaning that you are deriving, you classify these information. Sometimes, even after this, some information may remain out of these classifications. Then you go for open-end. In that, you generate certain categories and then you put those data into it. Then the third one is analysis related to qualitative genre. In the sense, as I told, different methodological genre like phenomenology indicates you to analyze things differently. Ethnography also analyzes information differently from their own philosophical perspective. In grounded theory, analysis is done from a different perspective. So, what kind of a study that you have or design that you have adopted, accordingly, you decide a data analysis strategy. once these three concurrent activities, data, ongoing analysis versus analysis, and structured and open analysis of qualitative journal. Prior to that, you have to do three main activity before actually you start analyzing the data in the field while you are collecting the data. And that is, one is known as data reduction, data display, conclusion drawing, and verification. Now, data reduction means when you enter into the field, you collect a large amount of data. Sometimes some unwanted data are also being collected. And all those data may not be relevant to your research work. So with the process of data reduction, these
Hello, sir. Please unmute, sir. Sir, please.
Okay.
Sir, third speaker is on live, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Those unrelated, unwanted informations are being filtered out in the process of data reduction. Then next is data display. Give me half a minute. I want to show give an example. See, here is a very what means appropriate example. When you do this data reduction, data display, and conclusion drawing, how unwanted things and many questions they are actually they come out and unwanted things are eliminated. So it's about actually a bank robbery. The bank safe was robbed last night. Whoever robbed the safe knew the safe's combination. Only two people know the safe's combination, X and Y, two people. X needed money to pay his debts. X was seen in the CCTV camera sneaking around outside the bank last night. And therefore, it can be concluded that X robbed the safe. See, you have seen, or whatever people have said, you have written and you are coming out. And
thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the third speaker is on live, sir. He wants to.
I'll take just 2-3 minutes to complete.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. 2 minutes. Okay, sir.
See, when you do the data reduction, first the unwanted information is being eliminated. Then when you do the data display, certain things that are not clearly answered, they actually need to be further probed, means that will lead to third stage. In this case, it is said that X needed money to pay his debts. Now, does it mean that because he is in debt and he was loitering nearing that safe, he has stolen it? We are not clear. So many such things will be displayed when you do the data display, and it will tell you how much of information to collect and when to stop it. It will indicate the amount of information that is to be collected and the end of your field work. Then your data analysis. Now, analysis already you have started from the beginning. Now, the final analysis, you use actually triangulation techniques. It is through triangulation only you will be able to establish the credibility of the data. And this triangulation can be either data triangulation or source triangulation or theory triangulation, depending upon what kind of information you have analyzed in the field and then you have brought in. Your field work has been completed. So with the help of triangle,
Sir, please unmute, sir.
I'm coming to the end. Give me 1 or 2 minutes, please. It is
Yes, it's not our problem, sir. Just
so triangulation is an essential technique that is to be adopted in order to establish the credibility. Now, other than triangulation, you do the content analysis. There are 3 different types of content analysis. One is in qualitative research, summarizing content analysis, explicating content analysis, and structuring content analysis. Now, depending upon your research questions, you'll be doing the content analysis. But triangulation is essential if you want to establish the credibility of the data. Finally, reporting. Unlike quantitative research, wherein there are fixed rigid steps or way of scientific writing with some predefined steps and pages. In qualitative research, generally, there are different formats.
मम्मा के बच्चे काले हैं कि नहीं तो मैं बोला काले हैं तो बोला भाई चीट चीट चीट
sir, please unmute, sir.
Reporting can be done chronological way. Reporting can be done in a thematic manner. Reporting can be done mentioning critical episodes. So what information we have obtained after analyzing, keeping in mind the research design, we have to adopt any one reporting style, which in quantitative research you do not have. There are some straight fixed rules of this scientific writing or reporting, whereas in this case, there are different formats of qualitative reporting. You, depending upon what information you have finally arrived and how you would like to present, you can decide any of these three. With this, I conclude my talk. Thank you for patiently listening. Should you have any questions, I am ready to answer. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So there are more than 250 participants are there. Little bit sounds they are providing. So in order to minimize that sounds, again and again, I am telling you to unmute it because of the Zoom. Paid version is like that, sir.
No problem, no problem.
Now, I would like to request, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightened speech related to qualitative research. So now I would like to request our ma'am, Professor Elizabeth Hangsing ma'am, to make a bio note of Professor M.A. Sudhir sir. It's over to Professor Elizabeth ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to introduce and welcome Professor M.A. Sudhir, who is also my teacher. He taught me when I was doing my PG. So really, I'm so delighted to introduce you. Professor M.A. Sudhir, Emeritus Professor, Department of Applied Research, Gandhigram Rural University, Tamil Nadu, is a specialist in higher education reforms, rural development, teacher education, and educational research. Professor Sudhir has over 40 years of postgraduate teaching and research experience. During these 40 years, he had served in different universities like Department of Education, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, and then Arunachal University, now Rajiv Gandhi University, prior to his joining Gandhigram Rural Institute. After his superannuation in August 2014, he was appointed as the Academic Coordinator, School of Pedagogical Sciences, Central University of Kerala. Professor Sudhir was a visiting professor at various Indian universities and has served as a resource person in national seminars and conferences. He also visited Sri Lanka as an expert member to launch the teacher education program under SARC regulation of Government of India and assisted in organizing in-service teacher training programs sponsored by External Affairs Ministry and High Commission of India at Colombo and Kandy in Sri Lanka. Professor Sudhir is also a member of national organizations such as NCERT, NCTE, UGC, and has served in the academic bodies of a number of universities. He also served in the Screening cum Progress Monitoring Committee of ERIC to evaluate the research proposals and research project funded by NCERT, New Delhi. He is a member in the panel for the assessment and accreditation of higher education institution by NAC. Professor Sudhir has authored 7 books, contributed chapters in 21 books, 14 books he reviewed, and has published more than 71 research articles in reputed national and international journals. He was also the executive editor of Journal of Extension and Research in 2001-2014, and a member of the editorial board of 9 peer-reviewed journals in India. The Interdisciplinary Innovation MPhil program in Research and Development, Integrated Bachelor of Education and Master of Education programs designed by Professor Sudhir was offered at Gandhigram Rural Institute. Professor Sudhir has also so far completed 20 sponsored research projects, 30 students have been awarded PhD degree, and 42 students have completed MPhil under his able guidance. I'm extremely delighted to welcome you, sir, in this session as a resource person. Please join us in welcoming Professor Sudhir. Sir, I'm so happy to see you, healthy, active. I know you are always a good and very compassionate and very jolly teacher, sir. We welcome you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello,
Sir.
sir.
Sir, please unmute, sir. Hello, sir. Sudhir, sir. Meeting, sir. Please unmute, sir. Hello, sir.
Can you see him?
Hello, sir. Just unmute your mic, sir, and on your video, sir. Please, sir. Sudhir, yes, sir. Sudhir to aa gayi na. Just 2 minutes. Sir is disconnected. Please wait for 2 minutes, ma'am. And sirs, please.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Sir, please, sir. Yes,
Hello.
sir. Now it's
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sir, your video too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Very good afternoon to all of you. Enchanting Arunachal. Greetings from Gandhigram. Even delighted to see Elizabeth, my dear student, and enlightened to hear from her about me. So that's rather divine. Respected Dr. Shivashankar, distinguished dignitaries, and esteemed colleagues of Arunachal, not only Arunachal, the Northeast India, and dear delegates, research scholars, and students. I will just confine the topic. As you know, research is a very rich resource for development, for any development. Even during this pandemic period also, we are looking for the researchers to come out with a medicine or a vaccine or come out with the preventive techniques. So that way, research is very, very important for the peaceful and constructive development of the life all over the world. Especially it is nowadays related to supreme development. If we want to achieve that type of development, then we have to go for research. And in my slide, I have this, given one of the definition of research. That researcher, that Francis Ramner's definition, research is an endeavor to discover, develop, and verify knowledge. It is an intellectual exercise and problem-solving process. And research is a process and voyage of discovery. It is an application of scientific method. Without scientific method, research is not there. It will solve the problems of the society. Even the pandemic 19 problem, we can surely solve through research only. Now, I think, no, sorry, doctor. Dr. Panigiri
Sir,
has, lightened my address because he has completely discussed about the steps in research, quantitative research, qualitative research very well. Only thing I want to bring out some distinction between quantitative and qualitative research. Quantitative, both are, the difference is how you collect the data. It will depend on, it will depend upon your data. Sorry, I will take 1 minute. In qualitative research, the data will be measurable and it will be more formative, and it will be able to uncover through that data we can uncover the patterns in that research. Whereas in qualitative, that research is used to give more a deeper understanding of the subject. It is not just to test the hypothesis and all, but it will be better if you can understand the research steps properly. He has already mentioned it, but in quantitative research, these steps are very sorry. The steps need to be very, it has to be, they are very, very fine, and they have to be followed, and it has to be pre-stated also. And it, many of them we cannot develop after, following up, starting with the research. That is selection of the problem, of literature, formulating the hypothesis. This is very, very important. And the objectives and the hypothesis should be there, and we should have a research design. And in quantitative research, we will have experimental, exploratory, explanatory, ex post facto, and even survey design or even cross-sectional designs. So many designs you have to do it, but you have to keep in advance. Then use your data collection techniques, and data collection techniques, and the tools should be very firm, and they should be reliable and valid. That's more important in this type of research, that is quantitative research. Whereas in qualitative research, we can evolve all these things, the design, the tools and all. But here we have to see that and we will have statistical analysis. So, now I will come to my topic, that is mixed method research. As you know, that is the mixed method design is a procedure for collecting, analyzing, and mixing both qualitative and quantitative research methods in a single study. In one research problem, if you can use both quantitative and qualitative studies, qualitative designs together, that is both quantitative design also should be there, and qualitative design also should be there. If you can bring them together or integrate them together for your research purpose, then you can go for mixed method research. But you have to use this design very effectively, and you must understand both quantitative and qualitative research are needed to solve the problems. Generally, attempt to qualify the variables of interest. Questions must not, and sometimes there may be questions that must not be measurable. So in that cases, we can go for a qualitative, and the other cases, whether it is measurable, we can go for quantitative. So for a student, both the aspects of quantitative and qualitative will become handy in a mixed method research design. And I will skip these steps in mixed method, or I will just rush through that one. First one is whether you have to determine if the mixed method study is feasible. Second one is what is the rationale for such a study. Third one is you have to identify data collection strategies and type of design, that is both qualitative and quantitative design. And four is that is both qualitative and quantitative data collection tools and questions should be developed. And you have to analyze the data separately or concurrently and write report as a 1 or 2 phases study. And these are the 7 steps which we have our formal 7 steps. I have converted into this even with the mixed method study. Now I will give you the methodology. That is methodology. We have the both quantitative and qualitative methodology, collection of data, survey, interview, whatever this you have to use. Analysis of data, you have to use SPSS or NVivo for the qualitative analysis, and comparison and integration of the results needed here. Don't leave with only segmental reports. You have to integrate them. Otherwise, there is no need for mixed method study. Then you can use a number of tools. Quantitative tools like questionnaire, census records, documents, checklists, scales, test. Even nowadays, this pandemic data, this is all our recorded data. Secondary data is there. We can get that secondary data, and that also can be used for quantitative analysis. Whereas qualitative, he has already mentioned focused groups, observations, and conduct analysis, cases analysis. These are the sorry. And you can use these audio visuals also there. Now I will come to some major mixed method designs. First one is the convergent parallel design. This I did it. This study was conducted. That is, I will give with an illustration. In convergent parallel design, you can have a quantitative and qualitative data collection at the same time. Both are not separately done. They are done sorry. They are done concurrently. Concurrently, you can go for both types of data collection. Then after both of data collection is over, you can compare and relate and interpret. So one of the study after I joined the Gandhigram, because I was in the applied research department, a student from Manipur came. It was on earlier pandemic. Now also we have not got a medicine for that, HIV pandemic. And it was rampant at that point of time in Manipur as well as in Tamil Nadu. So we have taken steps, and one of the students, he did a quantitative study. He was from Manipur, and he conducted the study on a quantitative basis from Manipur. And she collected the data, and after that, she developed so many strategies that were being used to prevent HIV, even control HIV in the state of Manipur. Whereas the sorry. Whereas another boy who was a MBA student, he did the study from, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir. Please carry on.
Sorry, I am having that trouble. I told you this wheezing from
Yes, sir.
several days. Anyway, I will continue.
Sir, are you comfortable, sir?
Okay, I will continue. Only thing,
Okay.
there will be some irritation. Otherwise, I am comfortable.
Okay, sir.
There was one student. His name is Raja. He came to me from Tamil Nadu. What he did was, actually he was the first one or a pioneer in conducting this study of mixed method in Tamil Nadu or even in India. He got some 4 foundation projects and all. He collected the data from. He first of all he reviewed the situation, and he analyzed what are the factors related to it, and HIV pandemic, how it is really had a clinical write up on whatever on this, a very scientific and clinical write up he developed. And after that, he wanted to know what are the pockets from where this is maximum transfer, Finally, what he did was he developed a module based upon all his text, that material and all he collected. He created a film on the HIV. What is HIV? How it spreads, how we can present them, and what is how we are filled with a medicine or a we are yet to research is going on. So in the absence of a medicine or a vaccine, what are the other ways to prevent this situation? That's what was the study. So he used to carry that film to the colleges and higher secondary schools and colleges. And it was found that the age group between 18 to 28, that was the most risky group for this pandemic at that point in time. not like this pandemic. It was that time only that mostly it is spread with human contacts. So so he created films to show it to high school, not to high school, +2 stage and undergraduate students, engineering students, then medical students, then other arts and science college students, even MBA students, that is BBA students, then our BEd students. So all type of and even +2 schools also. So he will, whenever he goes for data collection, he will go for a pretest and he will administer the pretest, give this film, show this film to them, and after that he will have an interaction, and after the interaction he will discussion with the participants. And then he will collect the posters. Based upon, so the method was an experimental design is there. That is a quantitative design, pretest posters design he has developed. At the same time, he will find out that he has found out some of the areas here, they were the most vulnerable areas. So he will find out an exploratory study he will conduct there. How many, and even from the police stations and the hospitals and even the locals, he will have discussions. So he has got a data from awareness data and all based upon his pretest poster study. At the same time, about the level of the pandemic, he has collected through his exploratory study. So it was a convergent design, because we cannot go to first one level, then go to the college and lot. What he, although he became so popular, we thought only 2 or 3 districts we have to study, but we started getting calls from many of the colleges and the universities. Sir, we want your student to come and conduct this study in our college also. So that way he became very popular, and he used to tell, sir, and he was very lovely person. Now also he is running his own establishment, and he will say, don't get panicked, you get prepared and planned. And even if you have this pandemic attack, or if you are affected by it, you can contact me. Contact me, I will give you the necessary guidance. So that way, he used to make all the people very confident that they not get panicked at any point of time. But let us prevent it, let us stop it, and let us see that other people are also getting aware of it. But he used to say the other way, what are the ways for enjoying life or having contacts and all. So that way he was not much negative also. He was very active, and he was very progressive, and that study worked very well, and he came up with very good results. And after getting results, data from both the quantitative and qualitative methods, then we compared and related that data. Then we had to, on the basis of that, we gave report to the government of India. So both studies went very well, and both the studies were for the government was able to take some steps for preventing that pandemic at that point of time, especially in Manipur also, because that girl she was appointed in Delhi, that is HIV. There was a cell for that, so she preferred to go there and get a job there. So Raja is known as a he is very fine, and he got doctorate. He went abroad, and now of course he is returned back to India. He was in Germany for a longer time. After his research, came back and settled here, but still continues. Now also during this COVID-19 time also, he is creating the same type of awareness among the students, and the same design, preparing some of the things about the how to break the chain to save the life, and he is creating awareness among the people. And he says only awareness building we can prevent this situation. Okay. Now, sorry. Now, if you have understood the first one, then the other designs are very easy. First one is as I told you, both the studies, or the quantitative and qualitative studies, you have to do concurrently, and the data, that experimental data and the exploratory data you have to get, and you have to have the focus groups and all, then relate that data at the final stage for final analysis. Whereas in the next one, the explanatory sequential design. Now, it is not a design. It is, we are bringing sequentially, not at the same time concurrently, here one after the another. But explanatory sequential design, you have to first have a quantitative design, then it should be followed by a qualitative design. This is very important. And first conduct the quantitative study and follow it up with the qualitative study, and then you go for interpretation and bring up your results. We had a study conducted with this design by one of my students. He is also very popular one, that is popular, Paul Bhaskar. He conducted the study on commercial radio, community radio systems in Tamil Nadu, not the commercial radio. Community radios. So he started a community radio for his research. Then he found out the list of the listeners, and then he started the listeners' choices and all. So this was and he collected the data from them regarding the various programs and how they liked it, how much time they spend on this, listening to these various programs and all. That was the quantitative. That was listeners' choice survey. So it helped him to get the quantitative data. But at the second stage, what happened was he conducted a focus group with the experts. That is, not with one focus group on one group, several focus groups. one may be on culture, one may be on labor, one may be on public, events, then poems, dramas, and all. Whatever events they are, they are giving. In the commercial, in the community radios, that one, he is to get the focus group with the experts who are planning and who are implementing these programs. And even the program presenters and all, he used them while in the focus group. And here he did one more thing. He had a commercial radio and community radios also. That difference also he did, so that he could distinguish what were the good features of community radio and why this community radio is very, very popular in the hilly regions, even for among the tribal people here, and even among the remote areas. They like more the community radios rather than most this. But now, of course, there is a wave of change with the tax saving things and all. But that point of time, it was 2000. He collected the data. So community radio programs was very, very effective. Then the third type of design is the exploratory sequential design. This is the opposite of what I have explained the earlier one. That is, it will start qualitative data and follow it up with a quantitative data.
Hello, sir. Please unmute, sir. Sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. I have come to the exploratory. So this is opposite of the explanatory. And here we start with the qualitative first, then we go to the quantitative data collection. And this is a wonderful design which will give you even we can use this design even for very many policy studies. And the potential of the studies are very, very high. And the student who did was a young scientist, Wadi Mumtaz. Now she is working with the NAC in Bangalore. And she studied micronutrient, malnutrients, and cognitive development. Of course, I am coming to my field, that is the education. So, how whether cognitive development has whether it is affected by the micronutrients. So she identified some 5 micronutrients which are very much related to cognitive development: vitamin A, iodine, iron, zinc, and phosphorus. And she went to the schools and identified what is the type of food they are taking in the school situations. And even here in Tamil Nadu, you have this midday meal schemes. There also what type of food is being given to the students. So she identified the calorific value, and she identified this the iron content, content of this food. And even she visited many families and collected the type of food they are given to the students. Then she went to the schools, and there she collected the data from, I think she collected the data only from class 5 students, and she did the uh, anthropometric measures, that is their height, weight, and circumference, and of course biochemical analysis. It's a small blood test that is for very few sample, maybe for a 30-40 sample only. So that she collected, and from this quantitative analysis, from qualitative analysis, she find out what is the type of food they are taking and all. Whereas in the quantitative analysis, she found out whether, first of all, how much, how many students are affected by micronutrient malnutrition. And also she has given a cognitive development test, Piaget cognitive development test, and that she has adapted, and she gave it to them. So these two tests, from micronutrient malnutrition, that also level of micronutrient malnutrients, and cognitive development also, she got the scores. So from there she should identify whether the cognitive development is, which of the micronutrient is very much related to the cognitive development of the child. And she found out that iron is the most, iron and zinc. If they are not there in the blood of the children, small children, even for us also, we will lose, we will not have memory power. We will be forgetting, and we will not be able to recall and all. So that she told iron and zinc, these are very much needed for the children. Unknowingly, through the type of food we cook and all, and then during the preparation of the food and all, she says that sometimes we will lose this micronutrients in the food. So, but she found some of the positive aspects also in our indigenous system. Our traditional people, were they are cooking and all, leafy vegetables and all, they have taken care of this micronutrients. But when we shift over to other type of food preparations and all, we have to be very, very careful with our students or with our children. And if micronutrients are not there, they are needed in very small quantity, but if it is not there, it will immediately affect their brain. So many of our brain failed and other things may happen. And also she had given an advice to the Tamil Nadu government, that is Jayalalitha was the minister that time, and she had a meeting with her and told that breakfast is more important rather than the lunch. So they started having the breakfast of the students. Unless the students get, or even all of us, if we are not getting good breakfast, that will affect our activity level and brain power also. So that's a very good design. You can conduct studies, with that, and we can make strategies to improve our system and come up with good policy decisions also. And the last one is the embedded designs. That is the embedded designs. That is that both qualitative and quantitative methods are embedded one against the other. Okay. Both qualitative and quantitative, they are embedded against each other. And this I have done in my, I will just wind up with my own emeritus work that UGC has given me emeritus. So I have done this embedded design in our, in that project. So, sorry. That project is to is for enhancing youth empowerment through life skill education. So enhancing, so we have identified that life skills first, and this we have done that we have brought out with the college teachers and college students, especially undergraduate students. We have brought to our university and we have conducted workshops. And we first level we identified the life skills which is required. And now they say that life skill is very much needed during the pandemic times also. So finally they have come up with the WHO test core life skills. I will put it in the 5 paired lines. That is self-awareness and empathy. This is the first one. We have to be aware about ourselves and we have to help others. We have to understand others. Then second one is critical thinking and creative thinking. Third one is decision making and problem solving, effective communication and interpersonal relationship, stress management and coping with the emotions. So if we can, this is the first level they identified, and they identified the key dimensions and the elements of this 10 this WHO scores, and we took help from WHO also how to make this as a training model. When we have students coming to the colleges, at the first year itself, if we can train and give them this training, the college teachers, they will be, if they can understand this and they can plan the training modules as a training program in some of their NSS periods and all in the colleges. But it should be appealing to the students and it should be profitable to them. Otherwise, there is no need for. So this model we developed first. Then also we developed a life skill scale. This on 10 life skills we have developed a scale that can be administered. That we have constructed and standardized that scale, and also we have developed a youth empowerment scale also. That is LSS and the yes for youth empowerment scale. So all these three things developed a package for life skills, then developed the life skill scale, and developed the youth empowerment scale. This was like an embedded design. We brought the college teachers here and developed this, and then in the next stage we send these tools and this package with the college teachers to their colleges, so that they took home and they gave the packages there and they collected the data on youth empowerment scale and the life skill scale. So based upon that, we started, we had that data and we analyze the data quantitatively also, qualitatively also. Here we have used the qualitative analysis, not our qualitative analysis like case analysis or phenomenology and all. We have used that mostly we have used that strength thought analysis, that is strength, weakness, opportunities, and stock, that is that is strength, weakness. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So 5 minutes I will take. That is strength that you have seen, weaknesses we have to see, and their opportunities we have to see, the challenges we have to see. And this from this this was the pattern followed for that qualitative analysis. So we have gone away from this case analysis or focus group discussion. We had a better frame, and through thought analysis we identified which were the best better one. From there we also identified which life skill is needed at what type of time, because our facing our life, sometimes very hard situations will be there, problematic situations will be there, very critical situations will be there. So here we have to use different types of life skills. So so this thought analysis helped us to rank these 10 life skills and to impart training in that context whenever it is needed. And if some like suicides are more, then you have to use this type of because it may be due to stress, it may be due to lack of coping with emotions and all. So that module we have to take it up. Whereas if they are weak, if they are backward in their education and all, that you can go for the second pair, that is the critical and creative thinking abilities. And if you are so likewise that module of training program will be arranged in the different situations in such a way that it will be need based also. It can be online also, it can be there.
Sir, please, sir, unmute, sir, once again. Hello, sir. Just unmute, sir.
Okay. Okay. I think.
Okay, sir, carry on.
Yes, I will take in another couple of minutes. But what I wanted to say is we have to train our scholars well, and we should allow them freedom. Let us not give them a design when they come to the universities and all. They let them explore and let them find out. This is why many of the universities spoil our scholars. When they come, they will be caught by some of the teachers, and then they will be asked to do such and such a work. Then they feel later that there is not much innovations in that work and all. That should not happen. We should have that student immense number of freedom we should be given, and the freedom should also lead to, that is a supervised type of freedom, and through that we have to develop their research skills. And 4 types of research skills are very much needed. That is one critical thing is the skills are needed. Then problem solving skills are needed. I think first we'll start with the problem solving. Any problem when we take out to face and challenge that problem or address that problem. Then only that problem solving or problem finding, then even the title of the study and all will become very clear, title, objectives and all. So, and even the conceptual thinking also should be done very well. Let us not ask them to take, they have to conceptually very clear what they are doing. If it is life skill, what is life skill and what are the different types of life skills and all. That concept of the life skill is to be very, and there the review of literature on and all is needed. Then second one is, of course, the critical thinking ability. That is logical sequencing and reasoning and all, so that they can come to the objectives and they can go to the crucial hypothesis, identify the variables, so that that will feel the confidence of the students also. That critical thinking, of course, that will lead to design and data collection and all. Then analytical design is also very important. Students, if you are going for mixed group design, you should be thorough with both statistical analysis and if you are having qualitative, if you are having mixed both, otherwise quantitative and qualitative. I am giving you a PPT or a slide and next that will give you the softwares available for both. And also let us think, our research is it is not confined to us or to me or to the supervisor or to the department. That is, I get a MPhil or a doctorate or postdoctorate or something like that. That's not the thing. You should disseminate that knowledge, what you have done and what are your findings and what are the problems you faced and how your study can be helpful to solve the problems or to come up with some of the good strategies or policies or program. That is very much needed. And that is why the research skills are very important. I used to say life skills are needed to facing the tyrannies of life or the crises in life, like pandemic crisis and all. But when you start with research, you have to have the research skills. Unless you have the research skills, sometimes we will get lost. Many of the students, they get lost. They will not have this developed by their. Then let's go to the last slide. So with that, I will stop. I have brought a slide. Can you show the last slide?
ये है ना,
Please show the last slide.
ये है start video, तो stop
The last slide, sir.
Last slide.
Yes, sir.
That is.
Hello.
So I have skipped one multi-phase design. That is, don't go for more than 2 phases. These are the pandemic situation has brought up multi-phase designs. We can have one qualitative, then another qualitative, then quantitative, then another qualitative. So multiple stage designs or multiple phase designs are also now evolved. So we can use that one. Then last slide, can you hear me? Triangulation is not needed, Sir has already told. Data analysis software.
Next slide. Sir, this slide is the last one, sir.
Which one?
This research skills.
Data analysis software.
No. This is the last
Data
one.
Data analysis software.
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I will explain to it. I got it.
This is data analysis, qualitative and quantitative ethnography.
Yeah. That's all.
Yes, sir. Is it?
Yeah. Can you show, or I can? You want
Yes,
my
sir.
explanation?
It's visible, sir. You can.
Is it visible? Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I have given some of the softwares. Many students, they have now, even now, they have a lack of confidence to take up mixed method design and all. They say, sir, we have to go for both ways of analysis. And they will write something a quantitative analysis like profiling or case writing and all. That will not do. So you have to do, you have to, as it is a PhD or advanced level studies, you have to go for advanced scientific methods of analysis. So for the qualitative, there are so many qualitative softwares are available now. Like ethnograph. If you are conducting an ethnographic study, you can go for ethnograph, then Nudist, then Coda Minor, Atlas TI, Max Coda, NVivo. You note this NVivo is very, very important because it's a very fast becoming popular and very useful software, and Kuka and Turkus and Excite. So, but these are all free. They are not priced, so you can really download it and you can use it. Our students can use it. Of course, quantitative, as you know, you have to give them hands-on training to use that. SPSS. The latest version is 24. You can use SAS also. You can use Excel sheet. Earlier days when you were scholars, it was only Excel sheet. Now we have developed better SPSS and all. So, and different versions also have come up with SPSS. So it has become the quantitative analysis also very, very easy, and it will be, I will say, more scientific. And you can come up with your findings, and even you can come up with your interpretation if you get the data properly, and if you get your analysis, if you go with your analysis properly. So I think with this was extremely happy. But research, we should see that research is not a scientific study. Scientific study, stop with whenever you complete your 5, 6, 7 steps. But research goes beyond that. From the findings, you have to go to the recommendations, the implications. What are the implications of this finding in this culture, in this place, for this type of people? Otherwise, we will be lost with our data and all. And nobody will say that any value for it. But if you are conducting it in Arunachal, please see that in the context of the study, you try to explain. And find out the implications. And you can that recommendations, that's the lovely part of research. Many people stop with your findings. Statistical finding with they say that I have got the findings, I have got the data, everything. But what is that usefulness of your study for the people, for the government, for the teachers, for the students, for the parents, or for the system itself? So make use of this your findings and say that this can become this way relevant, and these are the policy implications, or these are the program implications, or these are the suggestions I am going to bring for the strategies and all. Even many of our studies in Gandhigram, they have written to the government. These are our findings, and please take care of when you have this midday meal scheme. Or even sometimes it is, as I mentioned, we started having that morning breakfast schemes because of many of our studies, and even child labor studies. We were able to eliminate that child labor from here to a great extent because of the research findings and their contributions. That is the spirit of doing research. I am happy that I am sorry because I informed your programmers yesterday night. So I was not feeling for last 2-3 days. So I was keeping away from all these programs, but somehow I managed. Thank God, and thank you very much. Thank you one and all for your patient listening. And I do not know how far I was able to relate to the topic and contribute to your seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
If there are any questions, I can reply, please. You can take at least 1 or 2 questions.
Sir, how can we carry out semiotic analysis, sir? Semiotic analysis qualitatively.
Semiotic okay, semiotic analysis, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You can.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Is it audible?
The semiotic analysis, quality index.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Hello. Hello, sir. Now, thank you all the 3 speakers. Now, finally, we came at a concluding point. Now, I sincerely request Professor T. Lumnim sir to make concluding remarks about these 3 lectures series. Over to Professor T. Lumnim sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shiv Shankar. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir.
I, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi University and Institute of Distance Education, Department of Education, would like to express my sincere, our heartfelt thanks to all the resource persons of today's webinar, starting from Professor Ramesh Babu, former HOD, Dean, Department of Education, RIE, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Sir highlighted the foundational educational research, touching upon the object, the purpose, and pre-assumptions. Sir clearly simplified all the content, what he mentioned about in his part. We are really thankful to him for his vivid clarification on the concept of the functional of educational research, which is foundation, we can say. And secondly, we would like to express our heartfelt thanks to Professor Panigrahi, former head and coordinator of UGC Center for Advanced Study, Center, Activities, Department of Education, MS University, Baroda, Gujarat. Sir also highlighted the theoretical concept of educational research, very high level, and we are really grateful to him for his clarity over the theoretical concept of educational research. Last but not the least, Professor M.S. Sudhir, he is Professor of Emeritus UGC, Department of Applied Research, Gandhigram, Rural University, Tamil Nadu. Sir happened to be my dear teachers while I was doing my MPhil in Nehu, Shillong. I'm really thankful to him that I could hear him in spite of his health problem. He loved this research method and he really conveyed what he is assigned to, all the types of research, mixed method, all relating to the practical aspect of the educational research, citing the practical example he undertook with his students. It was really encouraging, very exemplary. It was very informative for all of us. I hope the participant too will gain a lot of benefit out of that. I also would like to express my sincere thanks to Head of Department for her opening remark, and Professor P.K. Acharya, Professor Sahu, Professor E. Han Singh for introducing our resource persons, and also express my sincere thanks to Director IDE, Professor Asan Reddy, and Coordinator Muir, and today host Dr. Shiv Shankar for asking to say a few words at the conclusion as a concluding remarks. And all the participants, we are really sincerely thank you for your patience and cooperation and your full support for this webinar. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you one and all. Over to Shiv Shankar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Ma'am, do you want to add any more?
Okay. Thank you. I would, on behalf of IDE, I would like to thank all the participants for being here. Special thanks to our 3 speakers, and a very special thanks to all the faculty members of the Department of Education. It is a department from where I have completed my education from. Lungdim sir, Sahu sir, Elizabeth ma'am, seeing you online throughout the session was very encouraging for the Institute of Distance Education. We hope to take this collaboration forward. Though it is not in the program, I can see our director is online. If I may please request sir to say something, he's there. Professor Asan Reddy, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, well, I can listen you. And I have been listening to the deliberation of all the speaker, and it was very enlightening discussion. In fact, in-depth discussion. Though I'm not a student of education, I'm also a student of the social sciences. So many things are very closely related, and I got to learn anything from those experts who have spoken very nicely and directly. And finally, I wish to thank you all, both speakers, and also thanks the entire Department of Education for having this kind of collaboration and actively participating in this webinar. And looking forward for such a collaboration in future too. Thank you, Head of Department and Coordinator and all faculties and participants. Once again, special thank to the experts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now, really, personally, for the 3 speakers, as well as all our professors, department professors, Professor Kasang ma'am, Professor Acharya sir, Professor Lumdim sir, and Professor Elizabeth Madam and Professor Sahu sir. Really, I'm so thankful to you for sharing your thoughts in connection with the bio notes, or maybe in connection with the introductory notes, or maybe in connection with the concluding notes. Really, I acknowledge my deep regards to each and every one of you, sir. And I acknowledge my regards to our faculty members of the department who are listening with patience since from morning to now. And at the same time, I would like to pay my sincere thanks to each and every participant. If there are any kind of little disturbances related to maybe muting or maybe unmuting, it happens because of the paid version of the Zoom. That's why we are again and again asking the resource persons to unmute and unmute. So it's a little kind of disturbance. I a little unhappy in such a regard, and I apologize, sorry for that also. Now, for participants particularly, if you want to make any kind of queries related to doubts or anything, you can chat through WhatsApp groups, and all the instructions will be sent to through WhatsApp groups of the participants, and feedback format will be sent to your respective emails and maybe in WhatsApp group in between 7 to 9 p.m.
7 p.m. it will be posted in the WhatsApp group.
It will be posted in the WhatsApp group also. So be connected with the WhatsApp group discussion as well as in your emails. So with this, I would like to conclude my thought by paying each and everyone with a heartfelt thank you one and all. Thank you one and all. Thank you a lot. Thank you one and all.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
May I ask you a question? मेरा एजुकेशन डिसिप्लिन में रजिस्ट्रेशन था, मैं बाकी डेज का अदर डिसिप्लिन अटेंड कर सकता हूँ कि नहीं?
मैं एक्सप्लेन करूँगी. Sir, you have to fill up individual forms, sir. If you want to attend for other sessions, you have to fill up again a new form.
नहीं सर, मैंने एजुकेशन के लिए इस डिसिप्लिन के लिए फॉर्म भरा था. मैं 8 डेज पूरा ऑल डिसिप्लिन अटेंड कर सकता हूँ ना?
नहीं, आपको दोबारा फॉर्म भरना पड़ेगा. वही फॉर्म है, आप सब्जेक्ट अलग अलग लेके भरिए.
अच्छा अच्छा, थैंक यू मैडम, थैंक यू. आई वांट टू अटेंड ऑल द डिसिप्लिन्स बिकॉज़.
जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम. आप फॉर्म भर दीजिए बस और व्हाट्सएप दीजिएगा.
थैंक यू.
This is a common announcement. You are allowed to join all the subjects, but you will have to.
Hello.
आपको सब फॉर्म्स अलग अलग भरना होगा. जी, थैंक यू. Sahu sir, can I please say thank you to you, sir?
Yes, yes.
Sir,
Hello.
you have been so supportive throughout this effort, sir. Not just today. I have been following you, sir, in all our ID programs. Sahu sir is always there. He is sharing our links with others. Sir, thank you so much for the support. I saw you, but I didn't say anything, sir. So publicly, I would like to say thank you with folded hands right now, sir.
Oh, so nice of you. So nice of you all. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Hello.
Yes,
Hearty congratulations to all of you. Hearty congratulations to all of you.
Hasan sir.
IDE, Education Department.
Hello.
I will hopefully see you all again in the valedictory. No, not today, madam. At the end of the program, ma'am.
Hello, madam. I am requesting for my registration. I had been registered, but no link or mail was sent to me. I have not included in WhatsApp group.
Please share your queries in the chat box and we will respond.
Sir, do whatever the doubts you have in chat box of the Google, the WhatsApp group, sir, please.
Thank you, everyone. So we are ending the session for today. Please join us tomorrow at 10:15. Anyone who's interested in the English session, please join us tomorrow at 10:15. Thank you, everyone.